Hi, Nessa.
Hi, Jen.
How are you?
I'm good. Lovely to chat.
Awesome. So you're outside of Canberra, Australia. Is that
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And when I was running your human design chart, it's you gave me the birthplace of Fern Tree Gully, Victoria, Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's down in Melbourne.
In Melbourne. Okay, so that is south of where you are.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's about 7 hours drive.
In reading that, it brought me back. It made me wonder, was she born in Fern Gully? Like,
No, that's north.
That's north? Because that was like meant to be in Australia, am I right?
Yeah. So Fern Gully was set near Mount Warning, and I think Mount Warning is northern New South Wales.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for telling me about that, because that's a very enchanting movie of my childhood. So
Yeah.
That's so neat. Well, thank you for agreeing to meet with me today. You were actually my first guest. I have several lined up over the next several weeks, but it just so happens that you're the first of many guests to come on this series, The Design Within. And I'm just really excited. It's going to be a fantastic series that's going to interweave human design into the channel of raising the consciousness of humanity. And you, my dear, are something of an artist. I've met with many what I call energetic artists that are doing their part for raising the consciousness of humanity. But I would like for you to tell us a little about who it is that you are and precisely the work that you're doing in the world today.
Yeah, sure. So I refer to myself as an artist, intuitive healer, and guide because I do sort of so many of those different elements within the work that I do. So I was actually I've loved art. I've loved creativity ever since I was a kid, and when I was 14, I was actually reading a book. It was called, in fact, I think I've got it up on my shelf there somewhere. I think it was like the Encyclopedia of the Paranormal or something like that. It was by Colin Wilson. Yeah. And there was this chapter there on hypnosis, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was all covered in goosebumps, and I went, right, I want to learn how to work with the human mind, right? So, and of course, I was always fascinated by all things intuitive. So I would go to psychic fairs when I was like 12 and all sorts of stuff. So all of these different elements have been part of my life for a long time. And I was actually was a face painting fairy for 11 years. So I used to go to children's birthday parties.
Oh, I love that. A face painting fairy. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Nessa the fairy.
I love it. Oh, I would have loved to have had you at my birthday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I loved it, and I love the kids, and I love the parents, and I love the face painting. But I got to this point where I just didn't have any weekends to myself. I was always working every weekend, and I had my own family, but I never got to spend any time with them. And I just suddenly one day I just went, I can't do this anymore. But one of my favourite parts about it was opening up my face painting kit and like smelling the colours, smelling the face paints, because they all had this sort of scent to them. And I thought, I have to keep painting. I have to keep working with the colours. And so I decided to start painting. I came across the alcohol inks, which is the medium that I use for my paintings, a couple of years later. And I found I'd be making a painting for a friend who was going through some things, and while I was painting it, I'd have like little messages popping in. Like I remember one time I was creating this artwork for a lady, and I kept kind of giggling, and I was like, I have to have the rainbows. I have to use the rainbows. And so I did this painting, and there was a couple of names that popped in, and I wrote her a little letter, and I said, this is just what came through. And she got back to me and said, one of the names was the name of her, I think, 8-year-old grandson who had been killed in a car accident.
Oh, wow.
A couple of years before. And the other name that I had was his cousin, who used to play with him and who really missed him. And I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. So it all sort of started to come together. So I just found that I'd be making these artworks, and then the meanings would come through. And then I studied the colour therapy, and that sort of all wove its way into it. So the way I look at my artworks is, I call them magic mirror artworks. I've had lots of names for them over the years. You know, at one stage they were energy imprints, and then they were soul code artworks. But I think the magic mirror works well.
It's beautiful. It does invoke a sense of wonder, but also reflection.
Exactly, and that's what the whole point is. You know, it's when I do a reading for someone, because once I've created an artwork for a person, I can read it like a tarot card. So if I'm creating, say you say to me, all right, can you create an artwork for me? Then what I do is I'll write your name and your birthday on the back, and then a message will pop through, and that will go on the back of the painting as well. And there'll be some essential oil blends that will pop in, and I'll infuse the artwork with the oil blends, and then I'll kind of like channel the painting, I suppose. So it'll be this colour and this colour and this colour, it's got to go there, it's got to go there.
So when you say you channel the individuals, like their spiritual atmosphere through this painting, Nessa, so is it something like you feel what they feel, or do you see what they go through? Like, can you give us a little more like description on that? That's really juicy.
Well, it's interesting actually, because for me, I have to kind of take my head out of it, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Because if I start thinking about it, then I think I actually create stories that aren't necessarily real. So when I'm making the painting, sometimes there's things that happen in the creation of the artwork that I go, oh, this is interesting.
Yes.
Like, you know, I might put certain colours into the artwork, but then those colours all get swallowed up by other colours, and I think, oh, well, that will tell me something. So if I'm doing, because when I create them for people, normally I'll do like an A3 size, so, you know, about that big. But I've also been doing like little mini ones. So one of the local clubs in town, they get me to go in. They pay me to go in and do little mini paintings for people with readings. And so when I'm doing one of those, I do it in front of them, and I create the artwork while they're watching. So it's a lot easier for me to go, did you see what happened there? I put that colour on and then it vanished. Right?
Okay.
But when I'm creating a big one for somebody, that takes longer, and it's usually a while between when I do the artwork, when I do the reading. So I don't always remember what's happened while I've done the artwork. And I try not to tune in too much to the messages while I'm doing the artwork. It's when I sit down to read it for them that then the messages come through.
Okay.
But when I'm creating the painting itself, it's kind of like I'll be standing there, and I might look at a colour and I'll go, that one, or I might think, no, I need pink, or I need teal, or I need this, or I need that. So it's like the colour will pop into my head, or it'll catch my eye, and then I'll be like, over here, over there, do this, do that. And so it's kind of like I just get these little instructions without me knowing who's giving the instructions. And then I'll create the artwork. And then what's interesting is that I've had people in the past that have bought a painting. So this is not one that I've created with their birth date and their name. Okay, this is just an artwork I've created at some point in time. And, you know, 2-3 years after I've painted the artwork, somebody buys it. And the meaning is so relevant for them at this point in time. Mm-hmm. So it's like, even though I created it back then, it's like I was tapping into this point in time.
Sure. That makes very good sense. And it called out to them in whatever way that happens. It energetically aligned the frequency the energy that was conveyed through the painting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you say that you have to take your head out of it, I take
Yeah.
it that you're a very imaginative, creative person. When you have to take your head out of it, that makes perfect sense. That you mentioned you don't want to, be coming up with something on your own versus what needs to be channeled. I'm curious what the difference between those feelings are for you.
How would I describe it? I I am so so visual, and so I'll give you an example which isn't really to do with the artworks, but you'll understand what I mean when I say this, right? So I can be walking down the street, say with my husband or my kids or whatever, and all of a sudden I'll have a vision of me sliding over, tripping over, my head landing in the road, and then getting squashed by a passing car. Something
Wow.
I'll just, 1 minute I'm walking, and the next minute I'm like, holy shit, no, stop. Where did that come from? And that's how my head is all the time, right? So there's just so much stuff going on in there all the time. And if you look at my chart, my design chart, I've got the defined head and the defined ajna, and I'm just like, it's just always, there's always stuff going on there, right? And I remember I was doing a painting for somebody once, and I was getting really I felt really in tune with it, and I felt like I was really connecting with it. But one of the things from memory that came through was somebody related to this person either had taken their own life or were severely depressed, and thinking about that, blah, blah, blah. When I did the reading for her, she was like, no. And I mean, sometimes that happens with readings. It might not land with them at the time, and they'll suddenly realize who that is later on, or maybe they'll discover that somebody was that way later on. But it was like, because I started getting really emotional, it was like the brain then had to fill in the blanks.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. And then I think it kind of went into, well, let's come up with a nice juicy story that would go with this. So it's sometimes it's difficult to tell what is imagination and what is just the message.
I see.
So when I'm doing a reading, I find it's much easier to do a reading for somebody I don't know anything about, because then the head doesn't get in the way.
Absolutely.
If I know somebody, then
Yes, I find the same. I've done my own intuitive readings over the years, and I loved how you described it. Like at first it was called this, and then it was called that. I've done that too. And it's funny, Nessa, like I mean, I take it you know a bit about human design, and we're going to get into that later during the final segment of this episode. But you, like me, have outer vision. Did you know that is your super sense in your human design construct? Like that, it's the way in which you best take in the stimuli from the world. It's like this, the super sense is something. I feel like it's also like the metaphysical sense that a human being is most in touch with, and it's almost like when you are putting this energy from this person or event or just a frequency on canvas, the actual visual of what it is that you're painting is what stimulates kind of that extra sensory feeling within. Would that be accurate for you?
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, for sure, that could certainly be part of it.
It's really cool. And I never thought about myself in that way. And I'm certainly not a painter like you. And we're going to show some of your beautiful paintings in the final edit of this episode. But it's something that I will call myself an artist in a different way. That, you know, the outer vision, the outer stimuli of color, like your use of color is just phenomenal. And the rainbows, and it's so saturated, and it's so whimsical and delightful. There is like this, there is this feeling of like it is abstract, but it does conjure something on the inside that I find very interesting about your pieces.
Interesting with it as well. And one of the reasons I love working in this style is, you know, as an artist, if you create, because as well as doing the coloured abstract magic mirror type artworks, I also do like landscapes as well. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you are trying to create something that looks like something, and people don't like it, you can kind of, you know, it gives your ego a bit of a, right? But with the abstract stuff, I don't have that attachment to it because I know that it's also to do with the colour theory, right? So if they're going through something in their life, if they're exhausted emotionally and mentally, chances are they're not going to like the paintings with the colour orange in it, right?
Sure.
If they're going through a period where they feel really, really unsafe and really insecure, then they might find anything with a lot of red in it's too confronting for them, right? So there's meanings behind the colours as well. And so what often happens is if I'm at a market or something and I've got paintings up, I'll say to people, which one do you like the most? Which one do you like the least? And they'll say that one, and that one I'll go, well, that means this. And they go, how the frig did you know that? Many reasons, but
like what they don't like is also telling a very interesting story, right?
Exactly. So it's great in that sense as well because people get to see in it and they get to take from it what they need, right? So if they really need to feel calm, well, then they're going to find an artwork that helps them feel calm, you know, and those colours are going to reflect that back to them.
Yes, I can see that clearly. And I like how you mentioned that, you know, our ego gets wrapped up in, you know, when there's forms involved, when there's forms of the landscape, there are, we feel as though them not liking this has something to do with our ability or our capacity as an artist, when in fact, I think the same would probably also be true in the color usage and the mood even of the landscape that you're drawing, that it would conjure something within that could be uncomfortable, but you're actually, it's tapping into something important that they may be going through or that they need to look closely at.
Yeah. And what's interesting as well is often I'll have people that will look at the artworks and they'll go, oh, there's a cow there, there's a person there, there's a lady here. I actually did a painting maybe a year or two ago. I was tapping into an Egyptian goddess at the time, which was the counterpart of Thor, so Seshat, I think it was. And when I finished the painting and I kind of put it back, I went, oh, and it looks like an Egyptian, like, you know, like the hieroglyphs of the Egyptian people. It looks like a goddess standing in the middle in an Egyptian style. And I went, oh my God.
Wow. And you didn't intend that. That wasn't your intention. Okay.
No.
Wow.
And I actually went online and I did a bit of an image search for images of Seshat, and there was one that was very similar, in a very similar pose. And that one I kind of went, ooh. And sometimes that happens. Like I've got another one that's that I did years ago, right when I first started, and it actually looks like a little Buddha in the bottom corner.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes things appear in the paintings. And often, like, I won't necessarily see a shape, but somebody else will look at it and go, oh my God, look, there's a face there, and there's a face here, and there's a face there. everybody sees things differently. And then some people will look at it and they'll go, oh, to me, this talks about rebirth. And okay, great. That's what you see in it, and that's what you need to see in it. So it's a bit like watching the clouds. There's so many different shapes that pop through, and there's so many, the way that it hits you, and the things that you see in it is what you need to see in it.
I love that.
Else painting, and they'll see something else.
That's perfect. Perfect for someone with outer vision to see the world in that way and to be able to create artwork that helps others to do the same.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what's striking me, the word that keeps coming to my field of vision at the moment, Nessa, is vessel. Like you are a vessel for these messages, these feelings, these frequencies to come through onto the canvas. And I'm curious, what, like, it is, have you done any deep dives into your own, like, I'm not sure what your spiritual philosophies are, but your own, like, if you believe in past life incarnations, or in, what brought you here in your own understanding of it, that to be this vessel?
I've been exploring all the woo-woo side of things since I was a kid. So, like my husband often says, if you asked him what he wanted to be when he was a kid, he wanted to be a pilot or a doctor. Well, I wanted to be a psychic medium, and I wanted to talk to dead people.
Wow. So you came here with this inclination.
Yeah, right. But I convinced myself that I couldn't do that. So it wasn't until I was, 40 or 42, 40, something like that, that I was listening to different podcasts by different mediums, and people like Tyler Henry and Teresa Caputo, Long Island medium, and
yes,
and a lot of them would say, oh yeah, no, it doesn't sound like disembodied voices talking to me. It's just my own voice in my own head. And I went, oh, oh yeah, well, I get that all the time.
You started seeing yourself in these figures.
Yeah, not to the same extent. Like the mediumship stuff comes and goes. Like there was an artwork I created for somebody a couple of years ago, and I'd met the mum and the daughter at a market that I'd done a few months previously, and then the daughter called me and said, can you do a painting for my mum for her birthday, and it's a surprise. I said, yep, no worries. So I did the painting for the mum, and that was very spot on. And then the mum rang me a couple of months later and said, oh, it's my daughter's birthday coming up now, can you do one for her, and can you make that a surprise? I said, all right, no worries. And so her birthday, I think, was on the Monday, but I went to do the reading on the Friday beforehand, and I'd had a dream the night before. And like, I have very visual, very weird, wacky dreams all the time. But this particular one, I remember I was standing on it wasn't like a big stage, but it was kind of like a raised platform in a field. And there were all these people standing around me. And I just kind of glanced around, and I looked and I went, you're not one of mine. So it was like all these people were there for me, even though I didn't recognize them. And I turned around, I saw this one guy, and I went, you're not one of mine. And I remember looking at him, and like he was a mid-20s, young, strong-looking blonde dude, hairy legs, tradie shorts, work boots, high-vis, hard hat. And I went, okay. Didn't say anything, but just sort of stood there and looked at me. And I went, all right. And then when I was doing the reading the next day, I said, look, I don't know if this is relevant to you at all, but this guy popped into my dream, and this is what he looked like. And she goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, that was that sounds like my fiance's best mate, who had been killed in I don't know if it was a car accident or a workplace accident, something like that, and he'd been killed right before her birthday, a year or two earlier. So it was just really relevant, you know.
And they had been asking, like, commissioning artwork from you for each other's birthdays. And that's whenever he stepped forward in your dream. I see. Okay.
Yeah. So every now and then I'll get things like that. I do think in some respects I'm probably still blocking a lot of that. So a lot of the messages that I give to people, though, they're more focused on emotional and spiritual healing, because that's kind of where my sweet spot is, I suppose.
Sure. And the emotional and spiritual healing, the reason they're coming to you for that is because they're going through a period that is daunting and challenging, and they're looking for answers and for clarification. Am I right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people will go to a psychic because they want, you know, they want predictions. They want to know what's coming up. And the first thing I say to people is I don't do predictions. So if you want that, I'm not your person.
Sure.
You know. For me, it's more about recognizing who they are, the fact that, you know, the shadow aspects, the trauma, the shock, the hard, challenging times in their life were in some respects blessings. I mean, you know, that can be a hard thing to say to somebody who's lost a child, for instance, or something like that. But I do believe that's where the magic lies for people, you know.
I do too. I know that one of my very first psychic readings that I ever got, it was because my brother had taken his own life, and I was trying to make sense of, like, where is he, and, you know, can I still talk to him? Like, I was born into something of an atheistic family that didn't really provide for a lot of outlets for this kind of exploration. And that was the message that I received, was that you might not realize it now, but this is the greatest gift that your brother will ever give you.
Yeah.
And, you know, like that, I'm curious. And that was, I would say that was the most difficult season of my life. But like you mentioned, it was also the most illuminating and deepening of my understanding of myself and my purpose here. So I'm curious, Nessa, if you would be interested in sharing with our audience what the most difficult season of your life was in that respect.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've had a few. So I'm a 4/6 sacral generator in human design.
I imagine you've had quite a few. It's 6 profile lines really have it in store for us, don't we?
Yeah, and the funny thing is I sit there and I look at my life and go, oh, but it hasn't been that bad. Like, I haven't had, you know, horrific car accidents, or, you know, parents dying at a young age, or losing children. Like, I haven't had any of that stuff. But it doesn't mean that the things that I have experienced haven't hit me hard.
Sure.
You know? And that was a lesson I learnt probably in my early 20s, that just because my stuff isn't as big or as scary or as horrific as other people's doesn't mean it hasn't deeply affected me and changed my life. You know, I was a single mum for 8 years. And that was challenging for a few reasons, partly because of my relationship with my ex. It's hard when you're breaking up with somebody and you're trying to share children with people. Like, there's always going to be things that come up. So that was challenging for its own reasons. But to be honest, the last 2 years have been a bit interesting. We've had a lot of stuff going on with, you know, money issues and things like this. And I think it can be really hard to hold on to the faith when you're going through that. Like, it can be really hard to go, you know, it's all for a reason, it's going to be fine, like everything's going to be okay, when you're also ranting and raving at the universe going, what the hell are you doing?
Absolutely.
But I do know from experience that, yeah, these things pass and you do get a lot of learning and a lot of wisdom out of them.
And being a single mom is no walk in the park for anyone that I've known that's gone through that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to wear all the hats. Kind of, it's from how it's been described to me, it's like you never feel like you're enough in this situation, but you are absolutely everything in this situation. And like when you, since that was a challenge or a trial that you have been through the thick of it and come out the other side, do you see kind of the lesson or blessing that it provides you now? Like, is that something that you can reflect upon now with your work and your purpose? Like, you're clearly living your life purpose in the way that is most aligned for you, Nessa. Is it, can you reflect upon that period and see and feel like where that, you know, how it led you here?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, you know, with the generator thing, you know, it's all about the mastery, isn't it? We're here to master things. And if you look at my astrology chart, I think I've got, what is it, Saturn in Virgo in my first house or something like that. So that sort of adds this other layer to the mastery, and that I can't do anything until I've lived it and experienced it and embodied it myself. So I think a lot of it for me has been this whole, well, I've got to walk the path before I can understand it and help other people with it. And during that period when I was a single mum, one of the things that I did was I created a program for young mums. And what we did is we sort of trained up the other young parents, and we would go into high schools and colleges and talk to the kids about what it was like to be a young parent, so that if it happened to them, they'd know that there were things that they could do, and, you know, their world wasn't ending and things like that. And so, you know, I get to look back on that and go, wow, I did that. Like, I created that. I went and got a diploma. You know, I was able to raised 2 children on my own for years, even though I very rarely got a break. And, you know, they didn't end up in hospital. There was so many things, and especially, I think, like I was saying, you know, big challenge there was my relationship with my ex, and, you know, a lot of it was around boundaries and not having boundaries and not speaking up when I should have spoken up. And so now when I look back on that, I go, well, yeah, I did that, but I can forgive that as well. You know, I know so many people that are so, you know, they still hold so much anger and so much resentment and things like that towards ex-partners, whereas I can go, yeah, you know, that was a bit crap, but I also understand that he had his reasons for doing things as well. So I really don't hold any resentment towards that, and that for me has been you know, really important. It's that growing and reflecting and growing and reflecting and growing and forgiving and reflecting, and, you know, and it's just that's my whole life.
I think that it's also kind of a summation of the 6th line within us. Ra Uru, who did say that us line 6s, we really do have to, like, we have to embody the full spectrum of what it means to be human. And that takes time, and that takes a lot of time, like the full spectrum of what it means to be human. And especially since it's kind of the second dimensional quality of the line 3, which is all about trial and error. And it is just that constant, like you said, that ebb and flow, and learning and growing and discovering more about what this spectrum of being human is all about. And it's I always like to ask line sixes like yourself. Did you see kind of the variation in form of who it was that you were as a person during the different life stages? Like, I know that because we lead these very distinct stages, and we're both women of a certain age, we've seen that first Saturn return. I have to look at your chart and see when your second one is coming up. But
Yeah.
Have you been able to discern between the person you were before that first and after?
Yeah, looking back, I can kind of go, oh, yeah, okay, that's interesting. I couldn't necessarily say this is when it changed, because I think it's always an evolution, and there's always new parts and things like that. In fact, I was chatting to a friend of mine the other day. We've been friends since high school, and she goes, "I love it how you're always reinventing yourself." She said every time things go, ass up, as we would say here. For you, you get up and you reinvent yourself, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, I've done that a few times. So, and often what happens with me is it'll be, and I think the more you do of the spiritual work and self-development, because to me spirituality is not so much about gods and goddesses and all that sort of thing. I mean, yeah, great, but for me it's more about understanding myself. So things like human design are interesting, things like astrology are interesting, because it helps me understand, maybe that's why I do things. Okay, so it's not just all my beliefs and programs that are running things. Maybe there's some other influences there as well, right? So I get to sort of, understand myself better. But I find what tends to happen is I'll clear a belief, and I think, yep, that one's done, and then it will sneak back in a different form, and I'll have to do it again. And it's, like one of the ones that happens a lot is the proving the worth and trying to be valuable, and I'll go through these periods where I go, well, I have to make money, I have to be really useful, and I have to make money so that there's money there for in case anything happens. And so I start going, I turn into a workaholic, and I'll be working 5 jobs, which is starting to happen again, God help me. I'll be working all the jobs and doing all the things at home, and looking after the family, and then all of a sudden it's like crash burn. Oh, I've got pneumonia. Oh, I've got glandular fever. Oh, I've just had a big autoimmune flare, whatever it may be. So that's something that that's a pattern that I recognise happens, and I keep trying to break that one. But as I said, it has a tendency to come back in different forms. I'm hoping now that I'm at this age in my life that I've done that one enough times, and it's ready to bugger off.
They have these stereotypes when they think about human design, and they think that the ones that are capable of burnout are the projectors and the reflectors. Like, these are the the ones, the non-sacral beings. And truthfully told, I've actually seen more burnout with generators and manifesting generators, because we have that defined sacral that it's something that we depend upon. We feel it, we know that it's there, we have that definition within us, and we tend to rely on it, and dare I say, take it for granted. In that we think that, and I'm not saying that the other stereotypes that people always say, that projectors need so much rest and reflectors have to be very careful of their surroundings, or they will kind of like crash and burn. I'm not saying those things aren't true, but what I am saying is some of the worst cases of burnout, there's a lot of sacral definition there, and it's something that I think there's a lot more nuance involved. And there's also the conditioning factor, that if we know, because we've felt how much energy output we are capable of, we're going to try to tap that for all it's worth. And also, when us generators get out of alignment with our satisfaction sequences, that burnout, in my experience, just comes cascading over me like instantly. Like I can't carry on with whatever bright idea I had to begin with, you know?
Yeah, and I think, you know, like what was interesting with the other year was I actually did a course in human design for business because I had been sort of following the human design. I thought, oh, this will really help me dial in on what I'm missing to be really successful and to make all the money. And so I did this course. And of course, you know, part of it was, well, we are our first client, so we have to take ourselves through this business alignment process. And as I was going through the business alignment process, I'm thinking, I'm not in alignment here. This is not quite right. Like there's all these different parts of the work that I do that I love, but when it came to trying to package them all up, all I felt was dread. I was like, I can't do it. I can't commit to a 9-month program. Oh my God, it's going to drive me insane, right? And so I kept trying to make it all fit, and it wasn't fitting. And so I finished the course, and then I just had this massive and everything. I just dropped all the balls, you know. And it was like all of a sudden I went, well, maybe what's not in alignment is actually just being in business at all. Like maybe I just need a break from business.
Been there, done that one too. Got the T-shirt to prove it. I know. And in a way, I've also, and I didn't want to say this to sound insensitive to single moms, like you've been, Nessa. I've never been, but I draw a lot of parallels in wearing all of the hats as a business owner, of doing all the things, and it all relies on you. And I've even worked for I've worked for practitioners and psychic intuitives, from everything from a video editor to a copywriter to a content creator. And I've heard them talk about their business being like a baby, that if you do not feed it, it will wither. If you do not nurture it, it will suffer. And many of these people that I have supported over the years, they did have their own children to, you know, or a lot of them didn't. And this was their baby. Like you know, how some people have their fur babies, that like this kind of fills that role. And I know that being a mother myself, it has been extremely difficult to allocate the resource of me towards this baby or this baby. Does this kind of hit home for you also?
I think a big part of it is the identity side of things. You know, you become the business. The business is who you are. Yes. And so if you decide to let go of any part of the business, you feel like you're losing an arm or a leg, or people won't tell you anymore, or oh my God, like, you know, I can't, right? And so I just had this big fuck, I can't do it. And I almost got angry. I just went, I'm so done with all this, you know, it's the constant marketing and constant content creation, and you've got to be on all the platforms all the time. You're going to be responding to people's messages, and you've got to be, and all of the time I would have business stuff in my head. What can I do to get bigger, more reach? How can I do this? And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I mean, I could do it, but I didn't want to do it. You know, it's the whole generator thing. I'm like, nah, the body's saying no. I ain't freaking doing it, right?
It was zapping your magic, was it not?
It was, absolutely. Sucking me dry. And what was interesting was as soon as I went, okay, I'm done. I'm taking a break. It was like I suddenly had quiet in my head for the first time in forever. And so I started like baking. So we're all gluten-free in our house because we all have problems with it. So, you know, I'm making all the gluten-free breads, and I'm making all the fancy desserts that you can never buy anywhere because nobody makes anything other than brownies and caramel slices, you know. So, you know, I spent the last year just looking after my family and baking things and trying to not be cranky and resentful. And then analysing that and going, gee, you cranky and resentful, that's not what you do. You're the personal development person. You should be belief coding yourself. And then I'm going, no, get stuck. So, you know.
Yeah.
It gets very, ugh.
It is. Ugh. It's an internal dialogue, and it feels like there's many different people saying their piece inside of your head is what it feels like for me. And I've been through exactly what you've described, and multiple times, so many times. And mine comes in like a flow of it being like a feast or famine sort of situation where it's like, oh, wow, this is taking off and this is exactly what and then it will run to run dry to a trickle. And it's like, what did I do? What happened? And then it ends up being like, I end up burying my business and deciding against having a funeral for it. Like, I just want to walk the F away, you know, and just focus on my family. And like you said, I had my own meal prep business. We were not gluten-free, but we were plant-based for a good long while. And I had a meal prep business that was a local thing, and it was doing pretty well. But it was so funny when I stepped away from all of what it is that has always called me. Like, I believe it's always called you. And I completely stepped away from it. Is that when the tricklings in of inspiration kind of started to return for you?
Yes. I needed to take a good break from it and then allow myself to paint because I wanted to paint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not because I've got to make money out of it, because I think that was the problem. It's like, as long as I was trying to make money out of it, it just ruined it for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm all for, you know, the value in it, and, you know, people seeing the value in it and having that energy. It's just great, fabulous. But it's that, you know, when I have to try and push it and I have to try and sell it, you know, like I am the kind of person that will refer everyone. So God knows how many people I've sent to see my homeopath because he made all the world of difference for us. And so every time I'm doing a reading and something's coming up, I'm going, go and see my homeopath. He'll fix it.
Nice.
You know, I would have made an absolute fortune if I got a commission for that. So I'm great at selling everybody else's products.
Yes.
But when it comes to my own, even if I believe in it, as I do, there's still that part of me that goes, nah. Mm-hmm. I can't tell them that the painting is going to change their lives, because the only thing that's going to change their lives is them.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it's, you know, I know a lady who channels like jewellery, like priestess crowns and things like that. And she sells them for $3,000 a pop. And she'll say on her marketing, oh, this will help you channel this and call in this and call in that. And anytime I've tried to do that with my paintings, I've just had this real internal struggle, because yes, it can do that if that's what you believe.
And you've seen it do that. You've seen that, the testimonials and the personal reflections from clients of past. You've seen and heard them shout to the rooftops what it's done for them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But I still, I think I have such a deep dislike of the marketing manipulation that you see in a lot of stuff. That there's a part of me that goes, no, I'm just, no. If they want to buy it, they can buy it. If they don't, good, that's fine. But it doesn't help me out. It doesn't help me.
I think it's also, it kind of goes back to the generator's natural inclination and ability to respond.
Yeah.
There is this, and I'm talking. I see so much of myself in you, in that I'm drawing upon my own reflections, and I know there are so many differences between us. Like I said, I'm not a painter. I've never been a single mom, but there are very nuanced similarities to the story that you're describing here for me, Nessa, in that I can, like I said, I've supported so many different practitioners and business owners over the years, and I have no problem selling their product. Heck, like I'm actually an excellent saleswoman. Like I'm great at it. I have that gate 26. They call that the used car salesman gate. I've got that like in a trifecta. Oh, you do? Yeah. Like we can actually, I find that us generators and us with that gate, we can shed light on, it's like inside of our own bubble that becomes difficult to bring, because we are that energy and it is here to like respond to the external, you see? And so it becomes more challenging whenever we kind of shift that perspective of ourselves inward to be able to do that same thing that we do for so many others. And so that hit home for me for sure about what you were talking about with your homeopath.
Yeah. It's just it's just so easy to say this worked really well and this is what it's done for me and this is what it's done for my family and this is what it's done for my friends. And I think it's because there's no attachment to the outcome. I don't get anything from it. I'm not going to get paid a commission. I'm not going to get anything. So I don't feel there's no agenda with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think there can't be, though. I really think with us, especially with us generators, there can't be an agenda. Yeah. It really does have to be like that focus of what is driving that satisfaction. Yeah. In that it creates that chain reaction in our ability to continue responding, you know, to our sacral knowing, and that's our magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's fascinating. Yeah, so if I do kind of feel, though, like my own spidey sense intuition, I feel that you're emerging again from like another cocoon. Is that what's happening right now?
Yeah. And it's interesting when you reached out to me the other day, because I've been in this real like, come on, universe, give me something. I'm so freaking done. I'm so done. Like, we've just had so many financial issues over the last couple of years. Like, we were down to $30 in our bank account the other month, and I was just like dying because, you know, I'm a Taurus as well. So I like the safety, I like the security, I like to know we've got the money, we've got everything's good. And, you know, so it was funny that you reached out, and then a couple of other things have happened in the last week as well. Somebody else reached out and said, oh, can you help me out with this job? And then I got another job, and then, you know, so it's just been nice. It's been really good. So something's shifting.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I feel it too. What would you say? I mean, and I don't think that you're alone in those experiences, Nessa. No. I think we've all been there, or many of us have. And I really appreciate you sharing the human behind the creator of your beautiful work. And it's, I think that is one of the greatest blocks for so many out there. And we, you know, and many have mastered this marketing mechanism that you were talking about, and they're not being truthful. They're not being authentic. And many of us have fallen for the gimmicks that they have, you know, swindled before us. And, you know, then we find out behind the scenes whenever delivery comes to pass that they're not all that they say that they're going to promise. And so what I would say is that, it's not just us individuals who are feeling this shift. It's an entire collective experience.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people are waking up to a lot of these realizations about our world that has been on one trajectory for a very long time. And that, we're in a period of transition, and transitions can look quite uncomfortable and even ugly at times. And it's not necessarily a reflection of what potential is there and what is going to come to pass as a result of this transition.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you meeting with me today, and we're going to show a lot of beautiful artwork that you have created with your permission, of course.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining us, Nessa, and for helping to raise the consciousness of humanity with your artwork. It's an inspirational trajectory of the human experience that we really appreciate you letting us feature today.
Well, thanks for having me so much. It's really beautiful being recognised by other people that are doing the kind of work that you're doing as well. So thank you so much.
And please tell us where we can visit so that we can commission our own artwork if we feel so called.
Yep. So easiest way to find me is through my website, which is just www.nessalovell.com. So that's NESSALOVELL.com. And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Nessa Lovell Art.
Beautiful. That will be provided in the comments and description of this video. So please give it a look. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jen.
So the more I merged with Nessa's energy and explored her human design chart, what kept coming through wasn't so much anything specific about her channels or her gates and the fact that she was a generator. And we talked about that during the interview. What was really interesting was this feeling that this goddess Seshat that she mentioned was a powerful energy. It was a powerful frequency, and it was like, gosh, why is spirit wanting me to share so much about Seshat when this is decoding the design within? This is what I was led to do. But what continued to emerge was really interesting, and Nessa even sent me some additional information without my asking after the interview was concluded about this goddess, which was, it just confirmed for me, okay, yes, this is something I have to talk about. So I did not know anything about this goddess before interviewing Nessa. And the fact that she keeps presenting in her paintings and keeps kind of coming up for her is really a powerful symbol that it's really wanting to be explored. And I do believe that it connects to human design in a very real way. It's a very different way than what you are used to hearing about if you follow human design circles and wisdom. But this is an ancient Egyptian goddess of writing, wisdom, and knowledge. And I was like, wow, like, for being such an abstract artist, so focused on the richness of color and the therapy it provides, what was coming through for me in the energy of Nessa Lovell was extremely empirical, extremely cut and dry and black and white. Is that something that you experienced also? And the Egyptian goddess of writing, wisdom, and knowledge, also serving as divine record keeper, architect, and patroness of measurement, accounting, and libraries. And I was like, okay, now it's becoming clear. And the more I was exploring her human design aspects, her incarnation cross, get this, is the right angle cross of the four ways, which is the seeker, the steward, and the one who quietly knows. Not just intellectually, but viscerally and instinctively and spiritually speaking, the one who quietly knows. The theme of this cross is centered around sensitivity and awareness of pattern recognition, with an emphasis on pervasive questioning and rationalizing of data. Isn't that like exactly what Seshat energy is kind of coming through here? It's to be an integral piece of a larger group or picture. And I think that speaks to her artistic channeling beautifully. She has such definition in her head, her ajna, her throat. And despite having this really defined heart center, Vanessa spoke of struggling with her own self-worth. And I think that is not so much in the way that those of us with open heart centers struggle, because it was a different flavor, if you will, of the struggle. And I'll describe what came through for me. The heart center people, that the people that have the open heart center, we struggle to feel our own self-worth. Keep in mind that human design energetics is all about the literal, like, physical human body and how energy flows through that. And I didn't get the sense that Nessa Lovell really struggled to feel her own self-worth. I think she knew her own self-worth, but I feel that there was this like frustration that she felt it, but there were times in her life when, especially when she was struggling with, the marketing of her work. And the thing that I struggled with as well, to be able to speak clearly in ways, like make clear promises about what the work that you do provides to those who invest in it. I don't believe that she had issue with feeling the worth in her body that her work provides. I think her main struggle was in communicating that to others in a succinct way. And her triple split, it could shed some light on why that might be, because for someone with so many open centers, she has a wide open identity center and a wide open solar plexus center, which means that she will not be able to consistently tap into her emotions as it relates to the emotional wave. These emotions will flood over her. They will flood over her very unexpectedly. And her sense of direction on where she is actually literally going in this life will feel at times like she is kind of this cork bobbing in the ocean with no clear direction. but I don't think she struggles with knowing the worth and the value of the work that she does. That's something different. I do believe that her being a 4-6 profile line, this speaks to this is the only profile line that is exclusively in the upper trigram of the two trigrams. See, most people fall one in one and one in the other, one in the lower, one in the upper. There is, like the 1-3 profile lines, I'll use them as an example. They are exclusively in the lower trigram. And, these are people that are very rooted in reality. They're very rooted in the nuts and bolts of things. They're very rooted in the literal practicalities of what it requires to master something, anything. And they will spend the whole of their life really dedicated to a mastery of their craft that they feel called to, right? Now, the 4-6 is interesting here, specifically as it is relating to this Seshat energy of empirical knowledge, record keeping. It feels very like mathematical and black and white. That's what keeps coming to me, like this this very straightforward mechanics of things, which kept coming back as like so interesting for such an abstract artist like herself, dealing with the richness of color. There was nothing airy-fairy about Nessa Lovell. She really did embody this Seshat energy, but because we are in such a time of transition, I think this is kind of a breadcrumb clue as to what we have to look forward to with respect to this dawning of this new global cycle of the sleeping phoenix energy. Like, we have been living in this time of the cross of planning, where there are categories, there are clear-cut boundaries to industry, to institution, and there's this hierarchy, if you will. We can name them ourselves, many of which are crumbling right now because of this epic transition in this new paradigm that we are approaching. But politics, education, religion, academia, like all of these are these like really big umbrella institutions that they clearly define the boundaries of the categories of this camp versus that one. And I feel as though the energetic signature of Nessa Lovell is speaking to this shift in paradigm where, empiricism, mathematics, record keeping, and like this Seshat goddess energy of wisdom and knowledge and writing and like architectural soundness. It's not necessarily going to be sequestered into this realm of, this cut and dry black and white. It actually can be the definition of rich, colorful wisdom, just like her artwork lends itself to. So I'm curious how this reaches you. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this very first episode. It was illuminating. I very much expected for all of the human design discussion to be sequestered into this final section of like the decoding the design within. But like we were talking about it throughout, and these were my reflections upon what it was that we discussed and how it was that her energy hit me during the interview process. So it's really exciting to see how this is all unfolding. So thank you for joining us. And yeah, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if this spoke to you. And stay tuned for our next episode of the series, Decoding the Design Within, always presented by Raising the Consciousness of Humanity. I am Jen Pinkstone. Thank you so much.